Hi everyone and welcome to my channel. I thought that I would just do a bit of a check-in, a book chat, so a catch-up of where I am with my reading if you're interested, and perhaps some recommendations on books that you might want to read. I did a video a while ago about books and these are just some of the ones that I've read in the last few months. I've really been trying to make a concerted effort to read every single day, which doesn't always happen, but I have been trying to read more. So this is just 4 books that I've read recently. This first one is one that my boyfriend actually bought me for my birthday in April. I didn't actually read it for a couple of months after that, but it's Death and the Penguin by Andrey Kurkov. It's set in Ukraine. It's a little bit old now, so it was published in 96. And it was originally published in Russian and then it's been translated by George Bird, if you were interested. It's an audiobook about a young aspiring writer called Victor who lives with a pet penguin in Ukraine in the 90s when things are not so great. And he ends up getting a strange job writing obituaries for a local newspaper and then ends up getting drawn into a web of intrigue and probable murder. I found it a bit bleak but quite interesting. I think Eastern Europe in the 90s was probably a bleak and interesting place. So I do recommend this. I did enjoy it, although on the front it says it's a tragi-comic masterpiece. I can't say I found it that funny, but apparently it's dark humour, so maybe I just don't get that. The next book on my pile is The Refugees by Viet Nguyen. May not be pronouncing his name correctly, so I apologise. It's the winner of the Pulitzer Prize for Fiction in 2016. It's actually a collection of short stories, all centering around refugees. So people that have left Asia, and I think pretty much all ended up in America. Mostly from Vietnam, if not all from Vietnam. And then it's just their lives. Some of them are quite touching and sweet and sad. There's one lady whose husband has clearly got some form, early stages of dementia, and so she's dealing with that after quite a harrowing experience of having to escape Vietnam and then raising their children. He's now losing his memory. And then there are other stories that are kind of quirky and odd. They all have quite an emotional element to them, and it, humanizes refugees, I suppose, if they needed to be humanized. So I really like this, although as with all short stories, I would just get into one and then I'd be disappointed that it was over. So I kind of wish that it was just one novel, one book. It's not very long as well, so the stories really aren't very long. But yeah, another recommend. And this is, like I said, from 2016. Then on to this thing, The Keeper of Lost Things by Ruth Hogan. I saw this on a poster in the train station and it caught my eye. I think the cover's quite cute with the flowers on it. So I just decided to buy it, not really knowing much about it. And it's just crap. It's just such a terrible book. It's one of the ones on Goodreads, like fiction book of 2017 or something, or it's nominated in their little awards thing. And I do not get it. It's just shit. It's this old guy who spent 50 years collecting bits of tat, like children's hair clips and bits of jigsaws, and then hopes to one day reunite them with the people that lost them. Like, they don't care. And I did a blog review where I reviewed the book in a bit more detail, because there's a couple of interweaving stories involving lost people. I suppose all the women in the book are kind of lost. You see what she did there. But yeah, they all clearly need men to sort them out, and it's just crap. So I don't recommend that. And then the last one just on my pile is this. It's Longbourn by Jo Baker. My mum bought me this probably a few years ago, and it just sat on my shelves. It just didn't interest me. It is the basically the story of Pride and Prejudice, but from the servant's perspective. So it runs in a parallel timeline to the events that happen in Pride and Prejudice. And at the beginning of each chapter in this book is a line from Pride and Prejudice, so you can kind of work out where you are in in the Pride and Prejudice book and match it to where you are in the Longbourn book. I just didn't have any interest in it, but I actually picked it up wanting something to read, and it was all right. It was fairly enjoyable. I haven't read Pride and Prejudice, but I have seen the BBC miniseries about 4 million times, so I roughly know, I have a good idea of the plot and the characters. A little bit, some of the characters didn't ring true to me, so some of the ones that I knew from Pride and Prejudice didn't necessarily seem exactly the same in this book, but I am comparing them to the TV programme, not the actual book of Pride and Prejudice, so that could be my problem in not matching them up correctly. And I wouldn't say that it's changed my life or anything. It's not revelationary. It's just a lot about servants having to wash people's clothes and it just being kind of a crappy life, which I think is fairly obvious. But it's probably worth remembering that we did treat people like this, but then we still do in other ways. So it's all right. It's if you like Pride and Prejudice and you've read the book, you might like this, because it will probably amuse you to remember bits of Pride and Prejudice and then see it from this other perspective. If you've never read the book and you don't know any of the plot of Pride and Prejudice, you might not quite get everything, but I think there's enough of a story that you would still probably have a reasonably good reading experience. So that's kind of a recommendation. Anyway, I have read 16 books this year so far. My goal is 30, so I still have quite a few to do before the end of the year if I'm to meet my goal. But that's just 4 of the ones that I've read recently. If you have any recommendations, any suggestions on books that you think I might like, please put them in the comments below. If you like the video and want more book videos, please leave a comment and also like the video and just subscribe for more book videos and more just generally awesome videos.